Hey guys, Cameron for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 13, Parting Shot, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, just because last week's left me in a more hopeful direction, and, overall, this is a tough episode, I gotta say, really. It's a tough episode to review because, on one hand, this was a great episode. I mean, there were some really amazing moments, there was some great action, there was some great emotional moments, it was funny at points. I mean, it really had everything I love about the show, but at the same time, I think this show really made a stupid decision, I have to say. And I'll get into that, but let's just get into this episode, which mainly was Bobbi Lance centric, which is awesome because you guys know Bobbi and Lance are by far some of the best stuff on this show. I mean, some of the best scenes we can, I don't know what this show would be without Bobbi and Lance. I mean, what they've done for this show is just incredible, and it was great to see them finally have their own episode, basically. There were other things going on. The entire episode was focused around them. Let's just get into it. We see Bobbi sits in an interrogation room at Interpol's black site in Moscow, and of course we know that her and Lance, they didn't know where they were going, but basically they're in Moscow, and Inspector Duvall says that she's lucky their government intervened to bring in Interpol for something as serious as what Bobbi did. Duvall points out that 3 government officials were murdered on Russian soil by former S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and when the inspector asks Bobbi what she has to say, she asks for a cheeseburger and curly fries, which it just goes so well with her character. I mean, Bobbi's not someone that's intimidating. She's not intimidated at all by this guy. I mean, she's dealt with so many other people. She's not at all intimidated, and I love that. Duvall warns her that there is no one else to help her and asks what she was doing in Siberia, and of course, we have no idea what's going on here because, we don't know how they end up here. So 34 hours earlier, Lance and Bobbi get ahead of Malick's detonator, and Lance hands his ex-wife the detonator, and as the convoy drives past, Bobbi contacts Fitz on the cipher. Fitz is tracking the convoy and reports that it's heading for a decommissioned power plant. They figure that the Russians plan to build a concentration camp for Inhumans, which is crazy that they're going to do that, but it makes sense because Inhumans are very similar to what was going on with Jewish, and I've said this before. I mean, they're really doing a good job, I think, with comparing the situation of the Inhumans and comparing that to the situation with the Jews in concentration camps. I mean, they both were kind of in the same situation here. Everybody thinks that they're different, everyone looks at them, everyone talks about them, but they're not really bad people. They just have these incredible abilities, and people are threatened by that, and that's very much what was going on with the Jews. Hitler made everyone think the Jews were these monsters because of the things he said, and everyone just listened to him because they just figured that he was right, that he knew all the intel that was going on when really he was lying, and that's very much what Hydra's doing with the Inhumans, and I think it's very interesting. So, Fitz tells Lance that he'll need to procure transport. Lance knocks out a guard in a Jeep, and he and Bobbi get in. And already, I'm like, this is an awesome episode. I mean, just knowing what the Russians were doing, like, this could be really incredible. So, we go back to the present. Duvall admires Lance's ability to spout nonsense. Lance insists that it's the truth. He and Bobbi were on holiday picking mushrooms. Duvall points out that Lance was standing over a dead man with a murder weapon and asks who ordered the assassination. Lance insists that they were accosted in the woods by drunken soldiers, and all they did was try to get out. That's really all that happened. So, as night falls, Bobbi and Lance approach the power plant. Fitz tells them they can't get an internal scan of the plant, and Coulson tells them that he'll send backup with guns and surveillance. Lance asks if they have a green light to assassinate Gideon because they want to assassinate him if they have to. They will. They don't want to kill him, but if they have to, they will. And Coulson tells them to just find out who he is and get back to him. That's really what they're doing. They're there to find information about Gideon, find out who find out who Malick really is, and that's what they want to do. So once Bobbi signs off, Lance stares at her until she asks what he wants. He says that it's nice just the two of them alone in the woods, and tries to remember the last time that they had a proper vacation. And it's a nice scene. You see these two just kind of wanting to have a nice vacation together, and that's really all that happened. Of course, it's not going to be that, but Lance points out that they've never had a vacation. Bobbi insists that they have to sacrifice free time. She wonders why Lance is thinking about it, and he points out that they wanted a mission with the man who killed 2 of their friends, and he figures that leaving Malick will end badly, and spots someone hauling an Inhuman prisoner inside. And obviously they know what's going on. So soldiers suddenly surround the 2 agents, guns drawn. The agents claim that they're picking mushrooms, they got lost, and then attack and knock out the soldiers, and I love the way this was done. The way they were able to fool them, I mean, it shows how smart they are. They're not stupid characters, and that's something I love about Lance and Bobbi. While they're mostly used for comedic relief, they're really smart as well, and they really know how to, trick people into thinking things, and that was a very good example of that. And someone that announces over one of the soldiers' radios that the cabinet ministers have arrived. The Zypher lands nearby, and Bobbi and Lance meet them. They explain that Malick and Anton are meeting with Russian cabinet ministers to show them an Inhuman, and the team figures that they need to get inside, and they realize that Bobbi is the only one that can speak Russian, which of course we know that, she's obtained many different identities and probably has been to many different places, so that didn't surprise me or shock me because we already know that Bobbi, when we met her, was already posing as someone else. I mean, she was posing as working for Hydra, so you can just have to imagine that she's just gone under all these different identities, and that's how she knows how to do that. So Melinda sends Bobbi, Daisy, and Mac to find the security hub, and Lance is with her. And something I like about this episode is that this episode was not devoid of the other characters, like they were in it, but it mainly was focused around Bobbi and Lance, like they were the main focus. So then we go back to the present. Duval hooks Lance and Bobbi up to its lie detectors and questions them separately. The inspector knows that they were S.H.I.E.L.D. agents until S.H.I.E.L.D. disbanded, and neither one of them break despite hours of questioning, and Duval shows Bobbi a photo of a dead man, asks why she killed him. Bobbi says that she didn't. Duval says that she's confessed to Lance doing it. He figures that their weakness is each other, which that was very interesting. He said, like, your weakness is each other. And I think it's kind of trying to show that while these two can be together, I mean, they say a lot and they're very close, and that's one of the reasons why this worked out for them the way it did, which is very interesting, and that they kind of need to be together. We remember last week Melinda said that the only reason you're here to Lance, the only reason you're here is for Bobbi, and this episode again kind of confirms that they're kind of just doing this for each other, and that's why they're there. And really the only reason that Lance hasn't left is because of Bobbi. So Lance and Melinda sneak into the plant and look for the Inhuman. They take cover to avoid the guards, and Lance finds a dead man wrapped in a tarp. Melinda realizes that it's the Russian Prime Minister, Dmitry Olshenkos, I think is how you pronounce his name, personal attaché, and says that they have to get their information to Coulson and Mac, and obviously they know what the Prime Minister is doing and everything, so obviously they're freaking out. Bobbi and others find the security hub. Mac and Missy, he doesn't remember Bobbi and Lance ever taking a vacation. Daisy prepares to hack the computers, but realizes that it's in Cyrillic, and Max, and obviously she can't read Cyrillic, but Mac then spots Malick and Anton on the security monitors, and Bobbi goes after them disguised as a soldier, while Daisy and Mac pipe the video to Coulson. And again, I've said this before, I love when we just see them going on different spy missions. I mean, it's some of the most fun that this show can have, because they do a very good job with it. They each have their own little thing to do, and it shows why they work as a team. I mean, I think for, some episodes we have to wonder why do they work as a team, because when they pull off spy missions, it works really well, and this is a very good example of that. So Bobbi finds Malick and Anton, and as Malick talks about creating a reservation for Inhumans, Bobbi plans a bug at the cabinet ministers arrive, and Coulson listens to as Anton explains that Olshenko sent his attaché to the plan to shut down the sanctuary, and Anton admits that the attaché is dead at the hands of General Androvich, and Coulson recognized Androvich as the Minister of Defense and a former KGB assassin. So obviously he knows who this is, and he knows what he's doing, and that he actually, of course, is, a Russian spy. So Bobbi listens. Anton tells Malick that Androvich is an Inhuman, and, well, actually, no, he's not a Russian spy. He assassinates KGB, and basically he is an Inhuman, and Malick asks where Androvich is. Anton says that he's in restraints, but as the team realizes that the captive Inhuman is Androvich, Gideon says that he can't help them because humanity will have to make some difficult choice about their existence. He insists that they must ally with the Inhumans, that that's the best way to go, and you can tell that Malick doesn't really want this to happen. Like, he doesn't want to imprison these Inhumans, but they will need a leader, and Olshenko is not that leader. And Malick suggests that they release Androvich, and Coulson realizes that the Hydra director is staging a coup. That's what's going on, that they have their own little plan, and obviously they have no idea what's going on there. So back to the present, Duval returns to Bobbi's cell. He offers her water. She refuses, and Duval says that they know that she and Lance aren't operating alone. He figures that S.H.I.E.L.D. is still in the shadows, and Bobbi wonders why Duval hasn't mentioned Malick. Duval offers to spare Lance if Bobbi confesses to working with S.H.I.E.L.D., glances at the one-way mirror, and leaves. And again, I love these interrogation scenes, just the way that they were done. Not only did they mess with Bobbi and Lance and, like, their sanity and everything like that, but they they also did a great job, I think, of just showing that they will stay loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D. even if they don't really want to be there. Because again, Lance is only there for Bobbi. He doesn't necessarily really want to be at S.H.I.E.L.D. He doesn't. If you remember when he first got there, he wanted to leave. That's how we were introduced to his character. He wanted to leave, but then Bobbi came into the fold, and he and her, of course, had that rough patch going on, but they just care about each other so much, and they will do anything to stay together. We know that. And 29 hours earlier, Melinda and Lance wait for the soldiers to move off. Lance figures that Melinda paired up with him because she doesn't trust him, and Melinda points out that he put Andrew's life at risk for selfish reasons, and Lance says he'd take a bullet for any of them because they're teammates. She points out that she was the person next to Lance, and S.H.I.E.L.D. works for the greater good. Lance apologized for everything he did, and I like this little scene here because he finally admits that he was in the wrong. I mean, we got a lot of scenes of Lance saying, oh, this, was Andrew's fault, and they didn't do anything wrong, and finally he's saying, I'm sorry. It's just, it feels like it's finally time for him to do that, and I like that. Just as Daisy calls to say that Gideon's on that, Malick is on the move, Bobbi's with the soldiers escorting Malick and Anton out. As they go to get Androvich, a superior officer asks Bobbi where her tie is, because all the soldiers have ties, and she doesn't. She knocks him out, but loses Malick and Anton as they go to another wing, seal the door behind them, and meanwhile, Gemma confirms that the attache was strangled to death. However, there are no external marks suggesting that a psychic ability was definitely used. In what capacity, we don't know, but there was definitely a psychic ability used here, and that's very interesting. So Lance and Melinda spot Malick outside. Daisy gets Bobbi through the door. Max spots Androvich on the security cameras and confirms that he's free. And then see his shadow detach from his body. And they don't know how this is going on. They just know it's detaching. But Daisy then rolls the video back so they can figure out what happened. Because obviously his shadow just detached from his body. And they know that he's inhuman. They just don't know really what he can do. So I like that Androvich was inhuman. And it made sense, obviously, why Androvich would be the one to, bond with the Inhumans, because he's inhuman. He can use them. He knows what they're going through. And, Inhumans we know have been around for a while. This is not the first time. We've known this for a while, ever since, the beginning of this season. We've known they've been around for a very long time. And this is not the first we've seen of them. For example, let's talk about Agent Carter. I think, for example, even though Zero Matter was a thing, in many ways, Whitney was an Inhuman. She really was. Just her powers and everything that she could do, she was very much an Inhuman. I don't think that they were, known as Inhumans then, but they were definitely out there. You could tell. Definitely in Agent Carter, they made note of that. And then Jessica Jones even referenced Inhumans, if you guys remember, which I thought was very interesting. So, Fitz then picks up incoming helicopters approaching the compound. It's Olshenko's personal detail. They realize that he's coming there, and Coulson realizes that Malick plans to have Androvich kill Olshenko at the plants, and obviously they need to make sure this does not happen. As Bobbi makes her way through the plant, Androvich's shadow follows her and then fades through a wall, and I gotta say, Androvich in general is very, very, just very creepy, very terrifying, and everything you would expect a general in Russia to be. She really did a great job, the actress playing her. Malick and his men drive away at the same time. Olshenko's detail leads on the other side of the compound, and Coulson tells Lance and Melinda to protect Olshenko. They head across the compound and spot Olshenko, and they want to make sure that he's not killed. Not because they don't want him to die, because they don't want things to go Malick's way. They want to make sure that this goes their way and that Malick doesn't ruin this for them. So Daisy and Mac arrive. Bobbi's in the group. Coulson tells Lance and Melinda to secure Olshenko, while the others contain Androvich and get him to the containment model. Gemma reviews the video, says that she might know what Androvich's powers are. Olshenko demands his attache, and Anton looks at Androvich. Anton says that the attache Yuri couldn't see the error of his ways. Olshenko realized that they're all traitors, just as the S.H.I.E.L.D. team tossed a smoke grenade in, which that was just awesome. The way that, he realized that they beat him. Lance leads Olshenko off while Melinda attacks Anton's men. Bobbi, Mac, and Daisy confront Androvich, who summons his shadow made out of dark force. It attacks Mac and is incorporeal, so they can't hit it, and unfortunately, they can't do anything, and once the shadow knocks Mac unconscious, it fades into a wall. They realize that Androvich has slipped away, and Gemma explains that the Dark Force manifestation operates independently of Androvich and can control its destiny, and, basically there's nothing they can do about it, that it has complete control, and the scientist warns that she doesn't know of any way to beat it, and I like this. I like that Androvich, again, doesn't know what's going on with her. It's kind of like a Jekyll Hyde situation, where she doesn't know how this is happening, and she doesn't know how to stop it. Very much what's been going on with all the Inhumans in the show. They don't really know how to stop themselves. Remember Joey, for example? He didn't know how to stop himself, and she doesn't really know how she's going to beat this. She just knows that there's something weird going on with her, and I like seeing that. And again, it reiterates the fact that these aren't bad people. They just have these abilities, and it makes them much more powerful and threatening to the rest of society. So Lance leads Olshenko out, shoots Anton when he comes after them. Bobbi realized they have to take out Androvich because she's a threat. Obviously, they have to take her out. And even though she isn't doing anything wrong, she's just too powerful. They have to take her out because of that, and they have to find a way to just neutralize her. So just the shadow comes after them. It fades in and out faster than they can react, knocking out Daisy and then fading away. The shadow confronts Lance and Malick, tells Bobbi to go why he helps Daisy, and Lance tries to fight the shadow but is unable to touch it. Meanwhile, Bobbi finds Androvich, shoots him dead. She immediately surrenders, and the soldier take her prisoner. And obviously, you can understand why she had to kill Androvich again. He didn't know what was going on with him. He couldn't control what was happening, and unfortunately, he didn't know really what he was doing, and they didn't know how to beat it. So she immediately surrenders, and the soldiers take her prisoner, and then now we know how Bobbi was in prison. And I like the way the structure of this episode was done. It just made things a lot more interesting with us wondering why are they in interrogation, and I like the way they handled that. So the shadow disappears just as it prepares to kill Lance and Olshenko. More soldiers arrive and arrest Lance, and that's how they got into that's basically how they were questioned, and that's how they were brought into prison basically, and that's how they're prisoners. So back to the present, Duvall brings Lance into Bobbi's cell, chains him down next to her. Once the inspector and his men leave, Bobbi says that they were lucky. Lance says that he was lucky and she was good, and admits that he doesn't see a way out of where everyone lives. And Bobbi says that perhaps not everyone should, which it's interesting as she said that. She said maybe not everyone should live. Maybe they should have a death here and there. And I kind of see your point that maybe they need someone to die or something to happen so the team is stronger, because there just are too many people at this point. And I really do see their point. The cast is huge at this point. Remember how small S.H.I.E.L.D. used to be? The cast is up to almost 10 people because of Bobbi and Lance, and we don't really know what she's saying at this point. Obviously, we don't know if she's talking about, someone should die or whatever, but I honestly thought that someone's going to die here. But we know, obviously, Bobbi and Lance are going to die because of Most Wanted. We know that's a thing, and that's going to happen. Olshenko then meets with President Ellis, figures that Lance and Bobbi are working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and Ellis insists that there is no S.H.I.E.L.D. Because, of course, remember, S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, but now it's started up again, and no one really knows. And points out that Bobbi and Lance saved Olshenko's life, and unimpressed, Olshenko says that when the innocent goes public, he'll have to explain how 3 members of his government were murdered because they were, and obviously he needs to explain why. Coulson steps forward. Ellis says that Coulson is an advisor to the ACCU, and as Olshenko takes that in, Coulson points out that Androvich tried to assassinate Olshenko, and he should be the one that Olshenko's upset about. It has nothing to do with them. They weren't the bad guys. They were trying to protect him, remember? So Olshenko tells Ellis that someone must pay for what happened, and it won't be him. Coulson enters the cell, introduces himself as if he's a stranger, which I love the way this scene was done, because obviously, one, he has to try to be as much as a stranger, he has to try to be as confidential as possible. Like, he has to pretend he doesn't know who Bobbi and Lance are and just observing them. Two, I mean, you can tell he really does have power over even someone like Duvall, and I love seeing that. So he used the device to blank out the sound, tells Lance and Bobbi to head out the door when Fitz triggers the EMP. The couple agree they can't risk an extraction and they'll sacrifice themselves to protect S.H.I.E.L.D. And Bobbi and Lance agree that it's time, that they need to die. And they're willing to die here, which was crazy. Coulson promises that to have their things sent to them. The cameras come back up. Coulson finishes his scripted spiel, and Coulson then turns over to Duvall, confirms that they don't work for S.H.I.E.L.D., and Ellis says that Lance and Bobbi will never work for the government. Coulson thanks them for their bravery. He points out that they saved Olshenko's life and wiped out his opposition, suggests that they're free to go. Olshenko walks out, leaving the door open, and I love the way that was done, the way that he saved them. Even though they wanted to die, he wasn't going to let them, and I love seeing that. So back on Safer, Coulson returns alone. He tells the team that Lance and Bobbi have been discovered and have been disavowed, and they're not coming back. They're not coming back to the team, and they walked free, but can't be agents again, which that's really crazy, but it also sets up why they can't be on this show anymore, which I thought really did make sense. It didn't feel like a cop-out. It made sense here. I mean, Coulson just said they are not working for S.H.I.E.L.D., so they have to keep that charade up, because obviously they're going to be keeping very close watch of them, and unfortunately they can't be in S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, which is really sad, because, they were very good for what they did, and they honestly really do need them, but because of what happened, they can't be in S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. And like Bobbi said, she wasn't talking about one of them dying. She was talking about how they can't be agents, and Coulson assures the others that Bobbi and Lance never cracked even a save each other, and they did it for S.H.I.E.L.D. They kept their cover the entire time. They pretended they didn't know what was going on with S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're basically doing this just to protect them. That's really what this is all about. It's all a protection thing. This is not because they personally wanted to leave S.H.I.E.L.D. It's because of the fact that they have to stay undercover, and because of the fact that they have to pretend that they're not involved with S.H.I.E.L.D., they have to basically keep pretending, and to the point where they can't work for S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, which is really sad. But then we get this great scene. I love the way this scene was done. We're back in the United States. Lance and Bobbi go to a bar, discuss where to go on vacation, because finally they are going to go on vacation. And also, I like Coulson's, whole spiel, because he lied and said this is just a couple that was going on vacation. They had the wrong people, and they had the wrong, the wrong couple. But now they have to actually go on vacation, which is good, because remember, Lance and Bobbi were talking about going on vacation, and now they get to. So in many ways, this is an advantage for them. It's obviously a loss for the team, but this really does benefit them. They're well aware they're under surveillance, and a waitress brings Bobbi a drink. They have to stay undercover, and obviously they're not going on vacation, but they know that they're being watched, and they have to keep up the charade. She says that Bobbi has an admirer and leaves. Lance spots Gemma in a booth, and the waitress brings another drink and another drink. The couple spots the rest of the teammates in the crowd, and it's a really bittersweet scene, because they can't acknowledge them, obviously. They can't acknowledge them. They can't really say anything, but they can gesture towards them. Bobbi explains it's the spies' goodbye. They all share a toast at a distance. Coulson and his team leave. Bobbi takes Lance's hand, and like I said, it's a very bittersweet scene. I love the way that this was done. I love the way they closed out Bobbi and Lance, and you really do see this as being a really good way for a really good exit for Bobbi and Lance. I mean, am I upset that the show just got rid of them? Yeah, because like I said, they were two of the most entertaining characters on the show, and they constantly kept the show moving. There were two characters that I loved. I've never had any problems with them. Even that love triangle they had with Bobbi, Mac, and Lance, I still really enjoyed, and it played out very well, because it was kind of funny, honestly, and they brought some good comedy to the show. But what this also really showed is that Bobbi and Lance are still loyal. Like, they're still in the team, even though they're not in the team. Like, they still will stay loyal. So there is a possibility we could see, like, Coulson visit them or something. But now that they're under surveillance, now we know how Most Wanted is going to be set up. Now they have to, they have no one. They have to do this on their own. They have to pretend that they're this couple that they're not. And if that's what Most Wanted is going to be, that's going to be very interesting, the way that that's going, because we know that they're getting their own show. It's confirmed now. I mean, the thing was, it wasn't confirmed, but now it is confirmed. And a lot of people are surprised they did it this early, but I think it makes sense why they did this early. We needed to lose some, obviously. There was too much going on in the show, and it was getting confusing, and by getting rid of those two, we can focus more on what's really going to be going on, and I really like that. The end of this episode, though, I didn't particularly love the ending, I will say. That's the only thing about this episode. We see Malick is out in a forest, skeet shooting. His daughter Stephanie joins him. Malick admits that the mission didn't go well. He confirms that they don't have a clue that Hive is back, and, that's something that none of them know. And Stephanie is eager to meet him. She figures that Hive is going to change the world. Scores a direct hit, and you definitely see Stephanie and Malick. They're going to work together. They're going to use Hive as a weapon against S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's where this episode ends. So overall, a very strong episode. And I say that because we haven't had a very strong episode in a while. You guys know I haven't been the happiest with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lately. And it hasn't been that's been bad. It's just been very convoluted. There's been a ton of things going on. It's been very hard to keep track of everything. And finally, this kind of just slows things down a bit, and I think it was the right time to do that. Slow things down. Everything does not need to be full speed ahead, and I like that we saw that here. It was a really good exit for Lance and Bobbi, and the way this episode was structured as well was definitely very well done. I really enjoyed that, and it's really tragic, and tragic end for them, really, because of course they're together, but they can't really be themselves. Like, they can't ever really say who they are or anything, because they'll be discovered, and the fact that this could, there's a lot of possibilities of what could happen in the Marvel's Most Wanted. If anyone breaks their cover, I mean, who knows what could happen? That's the thing. For me, I don't really know how Most Wanted can go more than one season, because how are they going to be able to keep the charade up? This is kind of like the Americans now. They have to pretend that there's someone they're not, because they're under surveillance and they're constantly being watched, and if anything could happen, it doesn't just ruin them, it could ruin their team. And that's something I'm very interested in seeing, and makes me a lot more interested in Most Wanted. Not that I already wasn't interested, but I was concerned because it's Lance and Bobbi that were going to be on that show, and I'm like, I don't know, but this has really opened the door for me. It really shows that whatever happens on that show is directly connected to S.H.I.E.L.D. because they are still protecting S.H.I.E.L.D. Even though they're not a part of it anymore, they're still protecting them, and I love that. I love that they're staying loyal. I love that their every move they make, they're still doing it for them, and I think it's fantastic to see. And I love the way that was done. And Bobbi's line of saying that, I honestly thought that they were willing to die. Like, I honestly thought that's what was going on, but that's not what happened, obviously. It had nothing to do with them dying. It had to do with them leaving to protect S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's very sad to see, but that's what they had to do. But I love the way they're setting things up with Malick, because now we see that Malick is pissed. He's pissed, but he's gonna use Hive as revenge. Of course, they have no idea that Hive is coming after them. They have no idea what Hive is capable of. And Stephanie as well seems like she really is a force to be reckoned as well, because she scored a direct hit. She did not miss a single shot there, which is really crazy, and I can't wait to see what happens there. And it doesn't seem like there's any clashing between Malick and Stephanie. Seems like Stephanie wants the same exact thing as Malick, which, alright, that's fine. I hope they give more for Stephanie to do and that she's not just Malick's daughter. I hope that she does actually have a say in things, because that could be very interesting. But the Inhumans as well, they're really setting the Inhumans up, I think, in a really great way, because they're showing that they are human. You have to look at that other part of the word, inhuman. They are humans, but they have these advanced abilities that they really can control. And that was the sort of thing going on with Androvich. He basically was brainwashed. He was basically made so he was this weapon against, what was his name? Now I can't remember his name. Now, Olshenko, he was a weapon against him, but that's very much like all the Inhumans. And now it seems like Hydra wants to use the Inhumans as weapons. I'm pretty sure that Daisy's going to be starting up Secret Warriors again. I mean, she pretty much has to. The fact they need to, if they want to help these Inhumans and they want to ensure that the Inhumans can be safe and that they can trust them, they need to start up Secret Warriors again. They have to. They can't just discontinue. And I think that's something that Daisy's realizing, oh shit, we need to get this into gear. We really need to do something about this. And I think she's realizing that here. And I think Lance and Bobbi really made them wake up and say, we are at stake. If we lose anyone else, this could end up really bad for them. Because I don't really know if the team's going to be able to function without Lance and Bobbi. I mean, there were things that Bobbi did. Bobbi kicked ass all times. I mean, sure, Melinda kicks a lot of ass, and she does a very good job with that. But Bobbi would literally just beat the shit out of anyone, and she did a very good job at messing with people, getting into their heads, lying, things like that. And then Lance was funny. Like, Lance was the one where if something sad was going on, Lance was the one to keep us up and keep us into the episode and keep our spirits up, and we kind of lost that. And, of course, Mac can be funny. Mac's a funny guy, definitely. And I'm not saying the rest of the team isn't great. They're all really great characters, and I do really like them. Lincoln, I'm still not sold on. I like that he didn't have much to do here, because Lincoln's the one where I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about him. Not that I don't like his character, it's just I feel like they've given him a bit too much to do, honestly. If I had to say, like, one problem with Lincoln, I personally feel that he's got too much to do. He really does, and they need to give him less stuff to do. But overall, guys, amazing episode. Perfect exit for Bobbi and Lance, but a very excited for Most Wanted. I wasn't excited, but now I'm really excited because of the way the events of this episode went. Definitely looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. We'll see you guys in the next one, which will be for Awkward, and I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.